Hey folks, Matt Easton here, Scholar Gladiatoria. So a really super quick point, but something I want to focus on, about the basket hilt. So I've done films in the past talking about the basket hilt, some benefits and problems with the basket hilt. I haven't actually done that many videos about it. I'm sure it's something I will talk about more, and it's certainly something that deserves to be talked about more. But a question that often comes up is why not have a basket hilt? Now, I'm not going to fully answer that question because that's actually quite a big point, but there is one point that goes against the basket hilt, and one of the detrimental things about it. Now, clearly it offers fantastic protection to the hand. Yes, it does limit the motion of the hand slightly. I'm not going to focus on those points, but I'm going to talk about accessing the weapon. Now, as I've made clear in many of my videos, swords are in many contexts, not always, but many contexts, a secondary weapon. That is, they are a sidearm. And this is really intrinsically important to understanding what swords are in most societies. Okay, they are something that you wear, that is worn at your side. You can't wear a spear. You, for the most part, can't wear a musket, but you can wear pistols, you can wear knives, you can wear swords. So weapons do split into a few different categories, obviously, but they do fundamentally split into categories between something you can wear and can be on you at all times, and something that really you can only carry to war, like a pike. Okay, you can't really wear a crossbow or a longbow, not really conveniently, and people didn't, generally speaking, go around in their everyday life wearing those weapons of war, wearing a halberd. But you can pretty much, literally, certainly in historical times, maybe not so much in modern times, but in historical times you can pretty much wear a sword everywhere. Therefore, one of the chief virtues of a sword is that it's with you all the time. Now, a lot of people talk about which weapon's better, this, that or the other, and one of the obvious answers is whichever weapon you can access the quickest. A spear might be a better weapon than a sword, okay? But if you get into an argument with someone in a pub and their weapon is a spear and your weapon is a sword, it could very well be that you get your sword out and get it into their body quicker than they can get their spear or get it to bear upon you, okay? Equally, a firearm. A firearm obviously is very effective if it's loaded. If it's not loaded yet, then it's basically useless. It might be a club. It might be useful as a club, although probably not as good at being a club as an actual club. So being able to access that weapon quickly is really important. Now, a lot of people will therefore, when they compare a weapon with a weapon, go, the basket hilt has far superior hand protection to a sabre or a small sword or a tulwar. Okay? Yes, in literal terms that's true. However, if the primary purpose of that sword is to be worn and accessed in the instant that you need it, then the basket hilt can be a pain in the butt. And George Silver, I believe, says something along these lines. But if you have a full basket hilt and you have to get it out quick, you have that hole to get your hand into really quickly. And actually trying to do that quickly it's not difficult, but you can fumble it. Because you've got two sides of the hilt in the way, it means that you need to be very well practiced and very quick at getting your hand down into there and then getting the thing out as quickly as possible. The less obstacles on the hilt, the quicker or more reliably you can get your hand onto the hilt and get the sword out of the scabbard. Now, a lot of people, when I'm talking about katana, say, one of the virtues of the katana's short blade is that it's quick to get out of a scabbard. Well, that's not peculiar to the katana, in fact, and obviously katanas come in varying lengths, but actually that is fundamentally true. If you have your blade out and ready to fight one-on-one, the person with the longer blade has the advantage most of the time, okay? But if you're instead starting from a position of surprise attack or surprise duel or whatever, and you need to get your weapon out of the scabbard, the person with the long blade has the advantage of reach once their blade's out of the scabbard, but it takes them longer for them to get the sword out of the scabbard. And with things like very long bladed rapiers, it can be a real issue, and they have to be worn in a very specific way and drawn in a specific way in order to get them out of the scabbard quickly enough to be effective. If the sword doesn't get out of the scabbard, unless you use certain peculiar techniques, which I might cover in a future video, but if you can't get the sword out of the scabbard, to all intents and purposes, it's useless. Yes, there are certain techniques you can do with it in the scabbard, but by and large, if the other person has got their sword out of their scabbard, even if their sword is shorter, even if they have less hand protection, their weapon is now more effective than yours because yours isn't deployed yet. Now, let's just look quickly at a sabre. So this, for example, is a stirrup hilt. As far as sabres are concerned, except for a simple crossguard, this is about the minimum protection that you will get with a sabre. Okay, so this is only really one step up from a medieval cross hilt. A medieval cross hilt just has obviously a bar. This has a bar with an extension to the pommel. So this does provide more protection than a medieval cross hilt, obviously, cruciform hilt. It provides a bit more protection, but it's not as much protection as the 3-bar sabre hilt, for example, or the half basket, and obviously it's nowhere near as much protection as an actual basket hilt. Now, something to note, of course, is these two hilts were used at the same time. This was used in the Napoleonic era, as was this. So these were around from the late 18th century. You could say knuckle bows go all the way back to the 15th century, actually. But one of the advantages of this sword is it's incredibly quick and easy and reliable to get your hand into from all sorts of different angles. Okay, so there's really no concerns. Even if you don't get the hand actually kind of on the handle, you can even pull it out from that point and get it out of the scabbard. So having less hand protection is less hand protection, but sometimes that comes with, you're always weighing things up with weapons, and if there's a disadvantage in one area, very often, not always, but very often, that will equate to an advantage in another area. So generally, yes, a longer blade is advantageous over a shorter blade, but a shorter blade can be drawn from the scabbard more quickly and used in more confined spaces, and blah blah blah. A less protective hilt very often means it's quicker and easier to get your hand into that hilt and deploy that sword. So there we go. Really just to say that one of the drawbacks to a basket hilt, yes, fantastic protection, but one of the drawbacks, not the only one either, but one of the drawbacks is absolutely it can be harder and slower in some situations to get your hand in there. If you do it perfectly, you could get the sword out perfectly quickly. I know there are people out there who'll be very big fans of basket hilts and will say, oh, I can get mine out just as quick as any other sword. I'm sure you can, but the chances of messing it up and the chances of fumbling it are greater with a basket hilt. Cheers, folks. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, follow us on Facebook. You can buy t-shirts through Spreadshirt, support us on Patreon, or follow us on Pinterest. Thank you.